churning. Bryant to the lip of the cup. Bryant's in for the touchdown.
Will.
Palmer is sacked by Lawrence.
And a heart.
Head over heels into the end zone. Touchdown, Prescott.
The Cowboys flip the switch on a shaky start to the season.
Every part of our team needs to get better.
But the tests keep on coming.
And Gurley gets there.
The Rams are looking to knock the boys back down.
That's a guy who can make big plays.
And an old friend knows what to dial up.
His expertise and his level of knowledge.
It's Cowboys Rams on Cowboys Game Day.
Oh, what a beautiful day in the Arlington Entertainment District as the Dallas Cowboys are home sweet home at AT&T Stadium, set to take on the Los Angeles Rams. A noon kickoff, and what does a noon kickoff at home mean? That means we are inside AT&T Stadium with a live broadcast of Cowboys Game Day, getting you set for the kickoff that's just an hour and a half away, and we will have the very latest news for you on who's active and who's inactive for today's game. Rowdy is here. Bill Jones is here, Randy White is here, Keith Russell is here, and we welcome you to Cowboys Game Day. It is good to be home sweet home, isn't it, Randy?
Yes, it is. It's good to be in this stadium and relaxed and get ready for a big football game today.
And a battle of two division leaders. Surprise, surprise, the Los Angeles Rams 2-1 on the season. Of course, the Cowboys 2-1 also.
You know, guys, in many ways, I look at this as a mirror image of each other. You have the #1 overall pick, Jared Goff. Well, guess what? You have the Rookie of the Year, Dak Prescott. You have the guy who was the rookie phenom at running back, Todd Gurley. And then a year after him, the rookie phenom at running back, Ezekiel Elliott. Young studs on both defensive lines. But I think the Cowboys are just this much ahead of the LA Rams. I think it's going to be a battle. I think it's scary in many ways today, Randy.
Well, it's going to be a tough game. And like you're pointing out, there's a lot of parallels on both of these teams where their strengths are. So I think there's a few areas that we'll get into that I think the Cowboys have got the plus on the advantage in this football game.
Well, let's start with one of the negatives for the Cowboys, because we're just coming down that Sean Lee is inactive for this game. Now, Sean Lee has not been a participant during practice this week. He has been working on his own. And of course, he suffered a hamstring injury late in the Monday night win over the Arizona Cardinals. So no Sean Lee out there. And when you're facing a guy like Todd Gurley, that is big for the Cowboys defense. You're facing anybody, it's big when Sean Lee's not out there, right, Randy?
Well, yeah, Sean Lee's such a big part of that defense, and Gurley does such a good job coming out of the backfield, and Sean Lee would be the guy to be on him. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't get Heath or somebody else in a different type of defense to make up for the fact Sean Lee's not in there.
Todd Gurley leads the NFL with 6 total touchdowns. Clearly, there's nothing Gurley about him this year. Now, the one thing I worry about with the Cowboys with Sean Lee not playing today is the depth. What happens if someone else goes down? We know Justin Durant will slide into that starting lineup, so you have Justin Durant, Jalen Smith, and Damian Wilson. But what happens if there's an injury from there? I mean, Bill, they toyed with Keith Smith, the fullback, having to possibly play linebacker.
And, of course, he played linebacker earlier in his career, too, and converted to fullback, so he does have experience, in fact, in college at San Jose State as well. Speaking of Todd Gurley, he ran a lot like Zeke Elliott last week in a Rams win over the Niners. Cowboys are hoping Zeke Elliott will run like Zeke Elliott again. It was another slow start for the Cowboys offense last week in Arizona, but Elliott finally showed some signs of being his old self in the second half. Cowboys say it's only a matter of time before things start clicking like last year.
You know, we've had a little bit of growing pains, you know, in the first couple games, but we're getting there. We're getting into a rhythm, and we're just playing it, getting better every week.
You know, the game's eventually going to turn. You got to trust each other. We're going to get it going. We got the players to do it.
I think when you look at it at the end of the day, we haven't been as productive as we'd want to be, but there's a lot of circumstances that go to it. I do think that we're not as productive as we'd like to be and as efficient as we'd like to be in the run game, so we do need to work on that.
I think one of the big differences from last year in that 13-3 season, the hallmark of that team was getting out early and having touchdown drives to start games. We haven't seen that with the run game with Zeke Elliott early in games, but are you seeing it come around, Randy?
Well, you saw it last week in the fourth quarter. They kind of looked like their old self. The offensive line started taking over the game, dominating Zeke, doing 4 or 5 yards at the per carry. And if we can start doing that again in the first quarter, I think we'll get back on track and get the cohesiveness back together that we had. But yeah, when Zeke starts hitting those big numbers, you know that offensive line is doing their job up front.
The Cowboys have scored a total of 3 points in the first quarter of this season. That is simply not good enough. Now, one thing that people questioned this week, Randy, was, is Zeke overweight? Has he lost a step? And to that, he said, you know what? Shh. He said, be quiet, but he didn't say be quiet.
He said, shut up.
He did.
Well, and I can see where his frustration level would be getting a little high. And then when you start getting those type of questions, you know, you just look for him in that offensive line, because that offensive line hears them questions too, and that's a direct reflection on them. So we'll see if that doesn't change here today. They got a tough task, which we're going to talk about in a minute, but I'd look for that to change.
Well, and one of the great things of being out here at the stadium for Cowboys game day is Randy gets to get up close and personal with these offensive linemen. You were talking with Tyron Smith and Lyle Collins prior to the game today.
Yes, Bill. I mean, visit with these guys. They're such they're great guys, and I tell you, I let them know, hey, I'm in your corner. Keep going, doing what you're doing. But Frederick, the center, and Zach Martin, I tell you what, these guys are out here throwing the football around. They played almost a half of a football game. I'm saying, why are you guys wearing yourself out now? Maybe you ought to save some for the game.
The thing about those two tackles there, though, they don't have to deal with the big guy in the middle of the Rams defense. A lot of talk about Aaron Donald, but it's Michael Brockers who's a guy, especially as far as the run game is concerned.
Oh, yeah. Mike makes that happen. You watch, he's a big, strong guy in there, and they're going to have their hands full, because usually it takes two of them on the pass rush to keep Michael Brockers out of there. And then Donaldson, you know, he gets that one-on-one coverage, and he's a quick, strong guy, and he can make a lot of moves and make a lot of plays getting after that quarterback. So it's going to be a good matchup today.
Well, and when you look at Dak Prescott and this Cowboys offense, I thought Dak had one of his better games last week against Arizona, and just the toughness that he's shown the last couple of weeks, even playing from behind against Denver, making some connections with Dez as well. But for this Cowboys offense to go, he got it going a little bit with the zone read and scoring the touchdown. And in the second half, the passing game came around too.
Well, the one thing Dak has to do is continue to take shots down the field. He did that in Arizona, Bill, and he didn't do it to Dez Bryant. He did it to Bryce Butler. Butler is a guy they are starting to believe in, that he can come up with those 50-50 balls. I think Dak Prescott got off to a relatively slow start, but 5 touchdowns, 2 picks. He's still having a great year so far.
Dak's having an excellent year. I tell you, he's a leader on that football team. I like everything he's doing. I don't think I'm going to be worried about Dak. He's got it going in the right direction, and they're going to do nothing but get better.
By the way, the inactives have been listed, and Chaz Green is active for the game, so that'll be interesting. He missed practice on Friday with a hip injury, and that's been bothering him for a while. But how big of a handful is Aaron Donald as far as this pass rush for the Dodgers, for the Rams? He's like a Dodger as he avoids the offensive lineman getting to the quarterback, Aaron Donald.
Well, he does. You got Mike Blockers over there, who's usually going to occupy 2 guys. That makes Donald's one-on-one, and he's got the moves. He's quick, he's strong, he's fast, he's got the motor. He likes to play the game. He's a prototype defensive tackle, that all-pro, and you know, Dallas offensive line, it's going to be an interesting test today. They're going to have their hands full with these guys from the Rams.
How about Dez Bryant and the effort that he showed getting to the end zone last week against Arizona, Keith?
He wanted that touchdown. He made no bones about it. I am getting in the end zone. He got a little help from Travis Frederick at the end. Travis pushed him across. But what we need from Dez Bryant, he has 2 touchdowns this year. But here's the stat that sticks out to me, Randy. Dez Bryant is 4th on the Cowboys in catches. He's 4th on the Cowboys in receiving yards. He's 1st in targets. At some point, that's a little imbalanced, and it has to change.
Well, I think Dez, you know, he's going to keep working, because he wants to be the best he can be. He's just got to start creating some separation from those cornerbacks when he goes out there running those routes. And when the ball's thrown to him, he got to be able to get up there and make that play. He can't let those chances pass through his hands and turn into interceptions. But Dez is going to keep trying. He'll be there.
And it seems like these other teams have pretty good cornerbacks, too. He had Jackrabbit Jenkins the first week. He had Aqib Talib the second week. Patrick Peterson, which may be the best in the league last week. He gets the franchise player for the Rams today in Trumaine Johnson. Just getting started here on Cowboys game day. Our Frontier Communications trivia question is a good one. Since 2006, there have been 4 first-round quarterbacks selected who had losing records in college. Can you name them? We'll have the answer after the break.
Come on, Randy.
Hey.
Take us in for a landing.
You don't want me flying that airplane, I promise you.
I think the chopper has landed, and that might be the Joneses that have arrived for kickoff. In our Frontier Communications trivia question, we told you there have been 4 first-round quarterbacks selected who had losing records in college. Could you name them? The answer, one of them playing today, Jared Goff for the Rams, Jake Locker, Josh Freeman, and Jay Cutler. Last week, the big story around the National Football League, of course, and during the Cowboys-Cardinals game on Monday night, players taking a knee. Cowboys did it in prayer prior to the national anthem, then they stood arm in arm for the anthem. This week, Des Bryant says the team will stand with hand over heart during the national anthem here at AT&T Stadium. And it's a great day for tailgating outside the stadium with a noon kickoff. You got to start early with the tailgating outside. And inside, players arriving early as well. And speaking of Des Bryant, he's ready to go up against Wade Phillips, Los Angeles Rams defense today. As we welcome you back here to Cowboys Game Day. Bill Jones with Randy White and Keith Russell as we talk about these quarterbacks a little bit. Dak Prescott versus Jared Goff. In contrast to his rookie year last year, Jared Goff off to a good start this year. But our producer Chris Bullock decided when he's going to do a comparison of Dak versus Jared, let's use the entire numbers from last year. So it's a little unfair to Jared Goff here, but Dak Prescott, it's a Cowboys pregame show, so why not? Dak Prescott with those numbers compared to Jared Goff. All right, my question for Randy and Keith, if the 2016 draft happened right now, who would be the #1 draft pick? Would it be Jared Goff, who went #1? Would it be Carson Wentz, who went #2 to Philadelphia? Or would it be Dak Prescott, who went number 135 to Dallas?
If you're asking me, Bill,
I know what your answer is.
I'm taking Dak. I tell you what, I mean, a great leader, cool cat under pressure, doing a great job. Just got nothing to do but improve. I would take him hands down.
I'm taking Dak Prescott as well. Not for his physical skills, but for his leadership. I've never seen a guy so young be such a tremendous leader. Carson Wentz has to do everything by himself. Jared Goff, he's a classic quarterback. He's played well. One of the problems for Jared Goff, they had Jeff Fisher in his way. Jeff Fisher's gone, and now he has a 31-year-old head coach, Randy, somebody he can relate to.
Well, and I would give some of Dak's physical attributes a big plus, too, because he can run that football. He creates a lot of problems for a defense.
And that's to take nothing away from the other 2, but 3 pretty good quarterbacks coming out of the draft last year. All right. Randy's favorite topic when Cowboys Game Day continues, it's the Dallas defense. We are live at AT&T Stadium.
It's time for the Nissan On the Road Report. Shop ChooseNissan.com.
I told you I ain't going nowhere. That's my belt.
So it's only given out after wins, and you guys got 2 wins, and you have it. So do you ever give it back?
I don't know. I'm gonna be humble, but I'm the champ.
It's a new Cowboys tradition in the Cowboys locker room as the fans head into AT&T Stadium for this noon kickoff. The Cowboys and the Rams. DeMarcus Lawrence winning the championship belt that is given out to the player of the game when the Cowboys win. And he's won it twice already this season. His performance in the season opener against the Giants and then last week against the Arizona Cardinals. In fact, DeMarcus Lawrence is just the 3rd NFL player to start a season with 3 straight games with multiple sacks. The other 2 being Mark Gastineau and Kevin Green. As we welcome you back here, Randy, how about DeMarcus Lawrence? Have we found that edge rusher the Cowboys have been looking for?
Well, I sure hope so. He looks like he's the edge rusher we've been looking for. I tell you, he has been able to consistently put pressure on that quarterback. Just not every now and then. He's consistently in that quarterback's face. Last week, Palmer, I think he could have had 6 or 7 sacks if it's just a step away.
So how much of it was DeMarcus Lawrence and how much of it was Jared Veldheer, the right tackle that he was going up against?
Well, if we could take him and bring him along every week, we would surely do that, Bill. But it takes some ability to get in there anyway, regardless of who you're playing against. They're pro football players, so he may not have been the best, but DeMarcus Lawrence, he surely did a great job last week and has been all year long.
Bryce Butler says he's been their Dwayne Johnson and their rock on this team, so he deserves that championship belt. The big question facing the Cowboys with DeMarcus Lawrence is, what do you do now? This is his contract year. And year number 1, he had that big closeout sack against the Lions in the playoff game. Year 2, he had a strong finish to the second half of the season. He finished with 8 sacks. Year 3, he started suspended. He was injury plagued. Now he comes out and he leads the NFL with 6.5 sacks. So do you sign him long term? That's the question.
Well, and I think with him, the biggest thing for him is he's injury free this year. In fact, he probably should have been shut down last year. He went ahead and played the season, had a surgery at the end of the season. But you've got a second-year quarterback here in Jared Goff. Yeah, he's got a really good running back behind him in Todd Gurley. But if you can rattle Jared Goff, they've kind of had the same principles that the Cowboys have on offense. By establishing a run game, it helps the rookie quarterback Goff, or the second-year quarterback.
Well, where the Rams have improved is in their offensive line. Now, if we got to put pressure on Goff, because if you let him stand back there and throw the football, he's going to hurt you. Gurley, he can run the football, he can catch the football. Both these guys. Pressuring the quarterback today is going to be critical. Stopping the run, but pressuring that quarterback, you're going to have to do it.
And Andrew Whitworth, the left tackle, they paid a lot of money to. He's a multiple-time Pro Bowler, and he's a big reason Cincinnati, Andy Dalton's having problems this year because he used to protect his backside. Todd Gurley, though, this guy appears to be healthy, and last week against San Francisco, he was running lights out.
People forget how good he was at the University of Georgia. Todd Gurley essentially brought running backs back into the first round of the NFL draft.
Zeke benefited from Todd Gurley.
Yes, he did. So Todd Gurley, I mean, he does it all, Randy. He does it out of the backfield. He does it on the straight handoff. The guy can take it 99 yards. The Cowboys have to close those gaps today.
Yeah, and I saw him jogging around this field. What a physical specimen he is. And he likes to play. That's important. He wants the ball. He likes it. That's another challenge. It's going to be a great game today.
Speaking of challenges, the young secondary for the Cowboys, if you look at the inactives for this game, Nolan Carroll is out with his concussion issue. Chidobe Awuzie, the second-round draft pick, is also out. Jordan Lewis stepped up in a very big way last week against the Cardinals, and as did Xavier Woods, who was playing in the nickel quite a bit during that game.
I spoke to both guys this week in the locker room, and they both said the same thing. Jordan Lewis and Xavier Woods, they said, we didn't come here to watch receivers catch the ball and just fall down and stop them. We came here to play takeaway. Our job is to take the ball away. Jordan Lewis already has a pick. He had that batted ball last week. Xavier Woods had a chance to pick off Carson Palmer last week. So far, they're getting their hands on a lot of balls, Randy.
And Randy, what you're talking about, the Rams helping the quarterback with the offensive line. They've also helped him with the wide receiving core. They've got Sammy Watkins and Robert Woods and a rookie in Cooper Kupp who is really good.
Yeah, and you can't. The Rams got speed, Bill, and you can't coach speed. Either you have it or you don't. And they've got speed back there, and they got some players that like to play and want the football. And when you do, you start getting the results that they've been getting.
You know, it's going to be fun out here. And the other thing that we touched on a little bit earlier, Wade Phillips on that Rams defense. He is going to have not only that Rams defense motivated to come in here, but I think the entire Rams team. Todd Gurley, by the way, told Michael Irvin last week, we're going to come in there and stomp your team.
Well, talk is cheap. We'll see what he can do. But I'm sure Wade Phillips is a great defensive coach, and I tell you, he'll be prepared for Dallas today. So it's going to be a barn burner, Bill.
I just can't wait to see what Randy White's prediction will be this week. Cowboys and Rams, that's coming up in just a moment here on Cowboys Game Day. But first, time for the State Farm Most Valuable Possession. Today, we focus on the big man in the middle, Malik Collins. Oh, Randy loves this guy. He's second on the team with 2.5 sacks and 4 quarterback pressures. Collins using his size, strength, and speed, much like Randy White did back in the day, to wreak havoc on opposing quarterbacks.
It's time for the Nissan Drive to Success. Shop ChooseNissan.com.
The NFC East standings, sponsored by Nissan, starting to look a little prettier, Randy, as the Cowboys are back tied for first at 2-1, playing the Rams at noon. Meanwhile, the Eagles at 2-1 are at the Chargers. The Redskins are at Kansas City, and those poor hapless Giants are in the cellar at 0-3. I know that makes you very sad, Randy. Tailgating outside. I wonder how many of these fans actually make it inside the stadium, or do they just watch the game outside in their tent outside AT&T Stadium? Great day to watch from outside or inside. Final couple of minutes here of Cowboys Game Day with Keith Russell and Randy White. I am Bill Jones. Cowboys-Rams, we're just over an hour away from kickoff right now, and Randy wants to talk special teams. In particular, Randy, I'll throw out the punting game in this game. Chris Jones for the Cowboys has set an NFL record. 41% of his punts have been down inside the 20-yard line, and the Rams got a 3-time Pro Bowler in Johnny Hecker.
Well, if you can keep that field position, it's very important, Bill. If you can keep that other team backed up with their backs against the wall, that gives your defense an advantage when they go out there to play. So that kicking game plays a big part in it, and we got a lot of these young guys that we hadn't had any. Here's Switzer, a guy that. He's going to score a touchdown sometime.
I love him on punt return.
Yeah, he's going to get a touchdown sooner or later because he just got it. You can just see he just wants to get it done. So, these special teams can play a big part in us winning this football.
All right, final 20 seconds. Who are we going with?
Cowboys.
Oh, shocker.
Rams lead the NFL in points, but the Cowboys score more today. I'm taking the Cowboys to 3-1.
He's sitting next to the Minster. Of course he's going to pick the Cowboys. All right, and we've got Tony Romo at 3:25 on CBS this afternoon. Oakland and Denver, a good one. We'll talk at you later.